Mm.
Yeah, we can move on to the next part.
Dang, this gonna
Which,
be a hell of a transition right here.
I know, right? But we cannot. Yeah, we got to mention the passing of DMX, aka Earl Simmons, aka Darkman X, who passed away last month at the age of 50. And I kind of feel like it's sad in a way that him passing, I think, might vault him into people's top tens, even though he's kind of been there for me already. I think a lot of his accomplishments gets overlooked, which I'm going to read some of them now. But DMX was, I don't know if he's still the only artist. I'll just say the first artist. He had his first 5 albums debut at #1 on Billboard. That's pretty crazy. He also had 2 albums in '98, which was It's Dark and Hell is Hot and Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, debuted at #1 and went platinum in the same year.
Yeah.
I believe he was the first artist to do that.
And this is before streaming, y'all. For all the young folk out here, this is when people were still buying CDs.
Mm.
A physical CD, like, yeah.
And I've seen conflicting information on this, but according to Wikipedia, he sold over 23 million. I saw somewhere else that it's been 30 million, but most places I saw said 23 million, so we will go with that. 23, 30, still not a small feat to sell, that many records. But just back to the first one, having 5 albums debut at #1, and his 6th album debuted at #2, so he was close to having 6. Like, he lived on the charts, man.
Yeah, that was a sad passing.
Man.
And it was like, because I kind of felt that too. I know of DMX, I know most of his songs, but I wasn't like a true listener of DMX. And now it's like, now I gotta go listen to his music. It's like, well, bitch, you could have done that while he was living. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't like that it takes these sorts of moments for us to realize how special an artist is. Like, I just came across his poem. I feel like I've heard it before, but I consciously heard it. The Industry, that poem. And I was like, wow, that gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, he's deep. I will say that for me personally, he was the first artist that I felt what he was saying since Tupac.
Yeah. Yeah, me and my homie, oh, go ahead. Now, I was going to say, me and a friend were just talking last night, like, identifying like those like great rappers that don't use a lot of bells and whistles or literary devices or, similes and metaphor, but like they just hard rappers. Like DMX is one, Tupac was another one, Nipsey Hussle was one, right? Like when you really listen to their stuff, they telling stories, they rapping their butt off, but it ain't a bunch of punchlines. It's like stuff that you just sitting there and you listening, like having a conversation. You know what I'm saying?
DMX has some bars though. He has some.
I'm not saying he didn't have bars. He just didn't. Like if you really, because I've been
he's not a punchline.
Yeah,
rapper.
that's what I'm saying.
I agree with that. Yeah.
He's not a punchline rapper. He, in my
like
opinion,
Lil Wayne, every other line is a punchline.
Like somebody like Ludacris, that's a punchline rapper. Like Cassidy back in the day, punchline rapper.
I agree with that. I feel you on that.
And it doesn't mean, and I'm not belittling them either, right? But for me, kind of growing up, so in '98 when that first dropped, I was in the 11th grade. So artists that kind of was dropping in my teenage formative years, those are the artists that are like almost indelible, you know what I'm saying, in my childhood. So, I mean, and for me, it was somewhat of a conflict because me as a Christian, when I got serious about my relationship with God, there was a point where I had threw away on my secular hip hop, and I grew up on hip hop, and then I started listening to a lot of Christian hip hop, and for where I was at 14 years old, that's what I needed. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, but if hip hop is in you, it's in you. So, I mean, I was on, you know what I'm saying, mostly DMX stuff. Even in college, in a poetry as performance course, we had to like write a paper on like a spoken word artist. And I was able to convince my teacher to let me write mine on DMX. Because of the prayers and the joints he would do without beats. And so I got his book, Earl, the autobiography, and read that joint from front to cover. You know what I'm saying? I mean, from, front to end. And, yeah, this one hits a little different, just cause I feel like that's a part of my childhood. You know what I'm saying? Like if some other new rapper dies, it's like, I mean, of course, hey, condolences to the family, but it doesn't have that same personal connection because I didn't grow up with them. You know what I'm saying?
Let me say, get y'all feelings on this. Is DMX the first rapper? Did he make ad-libs cool? I feel like nobody was really doing that before him.
Nah, that's how Busta Rhymes was doing ad-libs back in the day. I mean, super animated ad-libs. So
one of the most memorable, ad-libs, yes.
With the what? Come on, the barking.
The bark. The bark that's iconic. Like,
yeah,
that probably one of the top 5 ad-libs in my opinion.
Yeah,
but I honestly,
well, something, Chris, you might be onto something. That might be true.
Nick, I honestly,
even when I think of a lot of the rappers before him, they weren't ad-lib heavy at all.
And like now, it would be weird to hear it without ad-libs.
His was very like authentic. It was genuine. It brought a different energy to the track. So, yeah, you might be onto something there. Because I can't think of nobody else who could compete with him.
And another thing that I think made him stand out, the dynamics in his voice. Like, he really used his voice as an instrument. Like, I mean, in one verse, like, he would be like, stay out the dark, because if I catch you when it's under, run it, Clint. It was like these ups and downs where it's like, kept you on the edge of your seat.
Just having this conversation. Personality.
Man, yeah.
But I feel like he can I feel like they did take his ad-libs and just like put them on an MPC and just sample them and just hit him into the track. I feel like you could really do that with his ad-libs.
Yeah.
Yo, did y'all read that article? I think in the Tennessean, they were saying he's done like a decent amount of recording here in Nashville too. Like
I did see a picture of him. Yeah, I did see a picture of him in Nashville like 3 months ago, I think. I think it's down there by TSU or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was during the pandemic. Like, I want to say last summer he was here for like a week or two. Yeah.
Word.
I've always said and have heard that about Nashville, where at least this isn't so much true anymore. We get a lot of concerts now, but a lot of people do come to Nashville to record, not so much to perform. So that would make sense.
Yeah.
Nashville has some of the best studios. Like, if I've been to, I'm not going to put any other cities on blast, but I've been to some studios in other cities, and I'm like, what is this?
If I'm not mistaken, he was brought here for another reason and decided to stay to work with a particular person. I can't remember who it was. Like, the producer, I think. So yeah, it kind of just happened. I don't think he planned to come here, but yes, a lot of the people do plan. Because the other thing too, I hate to say this, but it's not a lot of distractions in Nashville.
Yeah, sure.
How you mean?
Yeah, some fun here, but
it ain't no
it
ain't strip club, so it's like that could be considered a distraction for some artists when you really need to lock in. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this ain't like New York. This ain't like a town that never sleeps. It's like, yo.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's more of a in my opinion, it's more of like a family, you know what I'm saying, town. And even going to Williamson County, you know what I'm saying, and people overlook, but like a lot of the Christian labels and studios out in Williamson County. So it's like, man, you can go to Franklin and you know what I'm saying, walk into some home studios and just be like, dang. You know what I'm saying? So Nashville is definitely unique in that way.
I mean, there's strip clubs here. Nobody just talks about them because they're not worth talking about.
So it's the equivalent of saying it ain't no, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
I mean, you make it sound like there's like zero in the city.
I mean, I didn't mean literally, but
they're not entertaining.
Right. In the conversations I'm normally having, I'm talking like within like the black community. Like the question I always see on Facebook, where are the good black strip clubs? And for clarification purposes, I don't go to strip clubs, but it relates to the conversation. Yeah, I don't know who listening to this.
To clarify.
So whoever's listening, hey, Mr. Rick does not.
Getting back to his pastor.
Anyway.
Well, what I would say about DMX is, to all the artists that are very, as you would call it, conscious driven, and they don't believe in making commercial or radio friendly music, he was one of the few artists that conquered living in both domains at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
He could give you a club record and could be saying some real deep stuff to you and you would never know. Because he was putting himself in the record, but also putting his message in there, but also remembering that you might be doing something different than what he's doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he might be in pain in a dark place, he know you probably in the club. So he go give you the energy that you need to have fun in the club, but also deliver his message to you to so that you can relate to where he was coming from. Like, I think a lot of artists, they strive to do that, but they just can't do it. I mean, that's just what it is. like I was laughing at the viral video of the woman in Nashville coming up to him, and she was just like, what these bitches want from a nigga. And I'm thinking, and she said that.
Wait, was she white?
And I'm like, no, she was black.
I mean,
she was like, I still don't know what these bitches want from a nigga. And I was like, and I sat there and I thought, I was like, man, people used to really kick it in the club to that song, but like that one line has so many layers to it. And so what I'm saying is, like, a lot of artists, they don't reach that level to where they can put their message in a song that sounds friendly enough to thrive in all areas. Like, it's nothing wrong with that, because people do it. Nipsey Hussle did it. Tupac did it. Biggie did it. Like, they understand how to live in all places at the same time, but also do what they want to do creatively.
It makes me wonder. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, he said that, I saw an interview with DMX where he said party up. Like, he said the beat was for the clubs. He said, I was just spitting some real shit to it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And it makes me wonder, like, you have to look at stuff like eras, like how important is the actual time and the era you come up in. And I say that because I wonder, with as sensitive as we are culturally right now, which is crazy because we're super sensitive on certain stuff, like you can't say this, you can't say that, but then it's other stuff that's like seems to be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like the new video that came out where it happened in December, but the two white cops, you know what I'm saying, threatening the black passenger, that was a sergeant in an arm in full uniform. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, if America was a relationship status, it would be extremely complicated. But my question is, when you really listen to DMX lyrics, and even those Snoop and Dre lyrics, there's a lot of, and I'm a DMX fan, right? But that don't mean you gotta be okay with everything, right? But it's like, there's a lot of misogyny. There's a lot of stuff he's saying where you're like, would that be okay in 20? Like, would people?
No, it would not. There's a lot of his lyrics is like, ooh, he couldn't say that today.
A lot, like even in Party Up, or no, the joint, Party Up is the joint. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind, right?
Yeah,
up in here. Even that joint, like in one verse, he says like,
man, listen to the content on there.
Listen, he says like 3 things, and you're like, Yo, that's so not okay. But back when that came out in the early 2000s, not saying that it was okay then, but the culture wasn't as defensive and sensitive to it. But now it's like, bruh,
let me point this out too and see if y'all agree with this too. The music industry is such a copycat industry. Nobody tried to copy DMX style.
They could.
Who?
I don't think you could.
They could.
Yeah, I think
You gotta have the voice first.
It's all it. Yeah, his voice was unique. Just how he could have that raunch and then bring it back to be a little more soft. Like,
Yeah, it was almost like he was naturally hoarse. And then to make it even better, you see an interview from him. He sound
exactly like you're doing the record.
On the record.
Right.
You be looking
So,
like,
I mean, you can't beat that.
you like that's how you talk, like for real, like
Yeah.
okay,
right.
The pauses, the quick mumbling words, the yells, like all that's him.
I did used to think Ja Rule was trying to copy him at first.
I was
but
just about to say I won't say copy only because they were contemporaries, and if y'all remember, Ja Rule, DMX, and Jay-Z were supposed to be forming this super group.
yeah, I remember that.
And I can't remember whatever happened, but Ja Rule did have some similarities only in the raspiness in the raspiness in his voice, but I don't think.
I mean, he talked the same too, though.
Yeah.
So that's
So it's him. So it's like he ain't try to copy his ad libs or his style. It was just like a similar vocal tone, if you will.
Yeah. So let me.
I mean, DMX is one of the. He's another artist that's one of the few people to break a producer too.
That's
like
Swiss,
man, everybody loves Swiss Beats. He broke Swiss Beats. Like he won with Swiss Beats in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
He's with somebody else first. He broke Swiss Beats. Like for real, he introduced us to Swiss Beats.
And Swiss will say that. He said that in an IG live the other day. He was like, "There is no me without DMX." You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
18 years old.
Man, yeah,
you can't beat that.
Legend.
So let me ask y'all, what's y'all favorite DMX album?
Ooh, see, it's hard to say a favorite album, because it's like every album had like at least 3 or 4 joints on it. But I mean, I just go with the first one, because I feel like your first one, it's new. We're being introduced to this guy. Like, yo, what is this? You know, I mean, he had Stop Being Greedy on there, ATF, Get At Me, Dog. The joint, The Omen, I think the joint where like the storytelling, like the Son of Satan or something. It was something like, but the storytelling, it was so captivating. Like
he's a very underrated storyteller.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna definitely go with It's Dark and Hell is Hot, just because it was like, what is this new sensation? You know?
Mm-hmm. Pat.
I'm thinking. Give me a moment. I need to look at these.
Oh, I admitted it before. I'm not too familiar with his full catalog. I know his like main hits, which I love all of them. So again, I hate that it came to this for me personally, as it probably will with several other people, to really go back and review his
catalog.
To go,
I'm gonna say.
My fault. Go ahead, Zar.
I'm gonna say Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood was my favorite because it's one of the few albums that I had high expectations for, and it actually exceeded those expectations. Like I was waiting for that album, like, oh, he's got another album coming, and then it was just a classic in my mind. Which the first one was a classic too.
Yeah, one of my favorite songs was actually, I think, on the Great Depression. The They Don't Know, like that's a didn't. Man, that joint. And then Get At Me, Dog was just like insane. And some people might not realize that was Chic from the Lox on the hook.
Yeah.
Man. So it was like, man, that made me, cause I don't know if y'all ever knew, I wanted to move to New York in 2005 before I moved to Nashville. Like that was like the perfect, I got family up there. I grew up on hip hop. Every time I visit, I just feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And of course, 15 years later, I'm here. That's not how it worked. And I'm happy everything worked out the way it did. But yeah, that Get At Me Dog just made me like, that's the type of song that makes me want to go write a song, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Pat, you coming to anything yet?
Man, I'm at a hard tie between, I'm kind of with Chris on The Flesh of My Flesh, and then there was X was like, just remembering where I was doing those albums is like enough. Like, that's a lifelong. And the Great Depression was my senior year of high school.
But do people realize how hard it is to consistently drop good albums?
Yeah.
I think Ludacris is another one that did it. Ludacris has dropped consistently good albums.
Artists these days aren't even really dropping
No.
albums like that. They're
No.
EPs and singles, because it is so hard to get people to buy a whole album, let alone the work it takes.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that makes sense.
I never want to be like that older dude that hates on the new generation. So I won't hate, but I also won't apologize. But no, I do. I don't listen to a lot of new music. Like, I still listen to like hip hop from the 90s and early 2000s. So like when people say, "Hey, what you been listening to?" Man, DMX, Jay-Z old stuff, Nas, you know what I'm saying? It's like that stuff. It still just resonates with me in a way that newer stuff doesn't. But I rock with J. Cole heavy and Wale heavy and a few other ones, but I just don't feel the same level of connection as I did with hip hop in my adolescence. You know what I'm saying? In my teens and early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're a purist.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
No. And music in that time sticks to us a lot harder, because that's when you're trying to figure out who you are, where you fit in the world, and the music is a big part of that for sure.
Yeah.